G'day there guys, it's your Aussie Hubby Markee, back at it again with another r/revenge episode. Now if you love me like I love you, then you know what to do. I want you to tackle that like button like Steve-O tackles crocodiles. Maybe even chuck an Aussie flag down in the comments. Now with that said, I want you to sit back, relax, chuck a prawn on the barbie, and get ready for some bloody good revenge. Now, our first post is by user RRInfo, titled, The Karen That Breeds Minion Karens. This all happened around Christmas/New Year's, but I just found this subreddit and am obsessed with it, so now I have to give you my story. My grandparents immigrated to Canada from Italy in the 70s and opened up a restaurant. When they passed away, the restaurant went to my parents. Over the decades, they grew and expanded it. I have been working at the restaurant since I was 15. Over time, my parents got older and eventually retired, becoming snowbirds. Go to Florida for the winters. They left the restaurant to me about a few years ago, but still retaining a small percentage of ownership as an additional revenue stream, along with their savings and annuities. Soon as I gained control, I pretty much modernized the old place. Remodeled the restaurant, changed the logo, reached out to local and national papers to put out ads, invited food critics, bloggers, vloggers, etc. It was very slow at first, and I began to worry that the loan that I took out to do all this was the biggest mistake I had ever done, and I ruined 3 generations of my family's business. But eventually it began to work, and a local semi-famous YouTube featured us in one of his videos, and that was the catalyst for more people to come and review us. And eventually we were seeing 5 to 10 times the amount of business we usually get, even if it's a Monday. We became a hotspot for major events, and it wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to come. On those nights, I even arranged for special high-profile chefs to visit and cook for our guests, which cost a fortune. So during the holidays, we were beyond packed. It got to the point where people would have to make reservations in July to get a table in December. This process took years to get to where we are now. When it gets busy, I don't just sit in the back office. I'm on the floor doing whatever needed to be done, even if that means greet people, bussing tables, or even mopping the floors. Other nights when we have high-profile guests or events, I'm in a blazer and am acting in charge too. On one night, a group of 6 women walked in. 5 of them looked like they are still in their early 20s, and the head of the group looked like she was in her mid-20s. Best theory, she was one of the 4 girls' older sisters, or a possible older sorority sister, to incoming college freshmen, maybe. I was greeting at the door. As they were walking up, Queen Bee Karen was telling the baby Karens on how this place is awesome, food is amazing, and there might even be celebrities here. When she came up to me, she told me she needed a table for 6. I replied, "Of course. Can I please get the name on the reservation?" She looked at me and said, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's okay. The owner is a personal friend of mine. He said he always has 1 or 2 tables that he keeps open for special guests, and said we can have one of those tonight." Now, generally this is true of many high-profile restaurants, and lately I have been doing that as well, but I had no clue who this woman was, and she definitely never spoke to me about any of this. I did get she was trying to get in without a reservation, but she literally picked the worst person she could possibly try and talk to about this. I told her, "I'm sorry, but we cannot seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, we do not have any seats available." I didn't want to go all out and say that I'm the owner and we have never spoken before, so I never promised you a thing because I didn't want to embarrass her in front of the other girls that she was with. At first, that is. She then went and said out loud to one of the other girls to take a picture of me. She will speak to the owner and make sure I'm either cleaning the toilet or fired by the end of the week. The other girls following her lead were like, "Yeah, kiss your minimum wage job goodbye." I'm not sure if they were in on it with her, but they honestly thought she knew the owner. Queen Bee Karen then went on and said, "Look, you can just give us a table or I can make life very difficult for you. This is not worth losing your job." Constantly pointing, just trying to put me down, saying things like, "Obviously you aren't here because if you were, you would know who I am and never even try to tell me anything other than yes or of course." Constantly trying to belittle me and get that table. At this point it was a long day for me, and the way I saw it, I had 3 options. 1. Tell her I'm the owner and just call her out on all this. 2. Just give her the table and let it be. 3. Teach Queen Bee Karen and her little minions a lesson. I chose option 3 for various reasons, including some personality flaws I am aware that I have, but I like to think I was at least 50% really wanting to teach her a lesson. I smiled at her, said, "Of course, ma'am. Follow me, please," and I gave her one of the 3 tables we keep open in case a celebrity comes in. Happens from time to time. I told her I apologize for everything, and she's right. It would be simpler just to give her the table. I also told her that first 3 rounds of drinks will be complimentary. I sat them down and personally served them. As they were sitting down, I told them we do need one of your credit cards and IDs just to keep on file, and we will give it back to you before you leave. Queen Karen gave me her cards and told the baby Karen minions that tonight was on her. I took their orders and got them their free drinks, and told them due to how busy we are tonight there might be a delay on the food. All the girls were thinking of and cared about were their free rounds. They ordered their 3 rounds and still no food. They eventually called me and asked me to check in on the whole time, giving me the world's most nasty attitude since even before they ordered. I told them I will check on it, but also asked if they would like any more drinks. They ordered 2 more rounds by the time the appetizers arrived. At this point, they're all drunk. Having done nothing but drink on an empty stomach most of the night, and only having had salads after, as more food arrives, the more drinks are ordered. What these girls never realized was that they are at our VIP table, which alone costs a few thousand just to sit in. But I didn't charge them for that. What I did charge them for was all the super expensive cocktails they had throughout the whole night, except for the first 3 rounds. In addition, the table they were sitting in, as mentioned, was VIP, so the menus were a bit different for ones. They don't say prices on them. Trade secret. And in addition, it had certain higher-end menu options, such as white truffle, black caviar dishes, and especially imported West Coast oysters, among other things. At one point in the night, I was honestly rethinking what I was doing and thought I might be going too far with these poor girls. They might not know any better, but some things reassured me out that night, such as one of the baby Karens asked me if I felt like my life was worthless, since all I ever became was a waiter. Also, one of my other employees told me how they were discussing how to screw with me, to the point that they can just do this whenever they want and I will always know to give them a table. I also overheard them say, "He's cute, but I would never date a waiter like that. He's such a pushover." There were a bunch of comments like that the whole night, so I kept on there with their life lesson. By the end of the night, each girl racked up a bill on the range of $500 to $600 per girl. When I handed Queen Karen the bill of $4,232.23, with tax and tip included of course, I have never seen anyone sober up so quickly. She went from laughing and giggling with her friends to nearly in tears. She called me over instantly and asked if this was some kind of joke. I took the bill, looked it over and said, "Oh, yes, I apologize. I'll get you the correct bill in a moment." Again, she felt a complete sense of relief, thinking she got someone else's bill, called me a frickin' idiot, and went on to talking with her friends. To be fair, I did make a mistake. I did forget to count her 8th order of a dozen oysters that cost about $120 per order, so I gladly just went back and added it to the order. Then I went back to give her the correct bill. She flipped out again, going crazy. I just asked if there was something on this bill that she didn't order. She and the girls, in shock, go over every single line of the bill, including the first few lines that show that their original 3 rounds which say complimentary. They then took out their phones and line by line went over everything, line by line, for the 100th time, adding everything up. Extremely rattled, Queen Bee Karen simply said, "1 second, I need to use the washroom." Part of me thought that she might just pull a dine and dash and leave the baby Karens with the bill, but kinda low-key, I did in a way remind her that I had her ID and credit card. Without making it obvious, I thought she was going to run out on the bill. 10 minutes later, she comes back with new makeup. Obviously, she had been crying, and makes up a whole story on how the food was awful, the drinks were bad, and so on and so forth, demanding that as bare minimum, I should cut the bill in half with the agreement the baby Karens will chip in, even though she initially told them that the night would be on her. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she again mentioned her relationship with the owner, as if it were to give me additional incentive to cut the bill in half. Holding back a grin at this point, I told her no, just no, I can't change the bill. She whips out her phone and shows me a series of texts with someone called My Restaurant's Name Owner, which I pretty much realized was just what she was doing in the bathroom. Probably changed one of the other Karen minions' contact name and deleted previous texts to start this new script. I read them and clicked on contact info and told her that's not the owner's cell number. Her reply was, "Oh, he has multiple phones for business and stuff? Of course you don't know all his numbers." I remember, wow, this girl thought of everything except I'm the actual owner. I told her, how about this? If we call him and he says that it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it. Her reply was yelling and screaming over the time where the few remaining customers all began to start looking, and I knew, okay, time to end this. I told her already in a less accommodating voice, "Cut the crap, little girl. You don't even know the owner. You have never been here before, and if you keep yelling, I will call the police." Her demeanor changed, and she was trying to defend herself the best she could. My reply to her weak comeback was, "My grandparents founded this restaurant. My family has been running this place for generations. I have worked here almost my entire life. I am the one and only owner of this restaurant, and I have never once seen you, heard of you, and I definitely never made a stranger I don't know and have never met before tonight any promises." The mini Karens were just frozen and didn't even know how to react. Queen Bee Karen was in tears. I said, "Now, I gave you the table you wanted, one of your specially reserved tables for high-end clients, which I didn't charge you for, and I gave you 3 rounds of free drinks. If you don't pay your bill, I will call the cops and hand them your ID." In tears, Queen Karen signed the bill and the mini Karens took out their purses to give her whatever cash they had, which equaled maybe a couple $100, with a promise to pay her back more. 2 days later, a man walks into my restaurant, fuming, and asks one of the bartenders to speak to me. I was in the back office for a bit, working, so he waited a good half hour for me. He was the Queen Bee Karen's father. She was with him too, keeping her head down. I took them both to my office, showed him highlights of the security cameras, which were especially good quality of audio because they were in the VIP, which we had to keep good records of because we have had other unrelated incidents before. So I showed him most of it, their comments, their orders, their everything. When all was said and done, he stormed out with her and was screaming at her the whole time that they were walking away. Haven't seen or heard from either of them since, but the original bill I gave them, the one that didn't count the $120 oysters, is framed on my desk. Side note, I didn't lose as much overhead on the table and 3 rounds as you might think. The table was originally supposed to be empty, so I didn't lose anything since I didn't expect to gain anything to begin with. And the overhead for the food and other drinks more than covered the loss on the 3 free first rounds. I thought about posting this on Nuclear Revenge, but I read some of the stories there, and I think making this girl pay a few thousand and giving her a life lesson doesn't qualify, for some of the revenge there is life-ending revenge stories, and losses in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. Edit. Jeez. There are some serious Karens DMing me and stuff. Guys, yes, there are posts in my history about questions about a job at a bank. Last year my ex's brother fell on really hard times and he went to live with us for a few months. He also is a Reddit user. He posted when using my PC, which I didn't and don't care about. Choose to believe it or not. Here is my story and enjoy it. Dropping mic, walking away. Alrighty, and our next post is by user Bootleg Moon, titled, How I Made Bratty Thumbelina Stop Flirting with My Boyfriend. So back in high school, I dated a guy who we'll call Jared. After school, Jared and I would hang out at his place with a group of 3 to 5 friends. One girl in our group of friends was interesting. We'll call her Trixie. Trixie was a pretty girl whose entire personality revolved around being cute and petite. Also, despite being in a relationship herself, she was clearly into Jared. She would claim that things were too heavy and ask only him to carry them, comment on how tall he was compared to her, ask him for piggyback rides, just general nonsense that made us both sort of uncomfortable. I wouldn't tolerate this now, but we did at the time because we liked hanging out with her boyfriend. Well, it being that time of the month, I bought a new box of tampons to keep it under the sink. It was one of those variety packages that included different sizes, which is important for later. Later that afternoon, I went to grab one, and I noticed that 6 or 7 of the light tampons were already missing. What the hell? Then I realized Trixie had been going to the bathroom a lot. Being so aggressively petite and adorable, I guess she considered it beneath her to use regular tampons. When we hung out the next day, she finished all of the light ones. I was wondering what she'd do when she approached me off the side and asked if I had any more. I quietly told her, no, sorry, but she could always use a bigger size so she wouldn't have to change them so often. She answered very loudly, looking right at Jared. Oh, I can't use those jumbo tampons like you. I'm way too tiny. What the hell? I guess she thought it would sound sexy or something? So what did I do? I hid the entire box of tampons in his room and replaced it with a box of diaper-thick maxi pads that I only wear to bed. The next time she went to the bathroom, she was in there a long time, probably searching for the tampons that I'd moved. When she finally came out wearing one of the diaper-sized pads, she crinkled like a fudging newspaper wherever she walked. Jared, knowing full well, asked the room at large, "What's that sound?" And she left shortly afterward. She also cold-shouldered me from then on, which was just an added bonus as far as I was concerned. As a cherry on top of the cake, I heard through the grapevine that she gained at least 50 pounds since high school. Bet you don't ask other people's boyfriends for piggyback rides anymore, huh, Trixie? Righto, and our next post is by user GT2810. Titled, "A company gave out 10,000 flyers that had my phone number on them." So this one happened quite a long time ago when I had my first office job. I did fairly well, and after a while was promoted and got my own room. With it came my own phone line. The day after it was installed, I arrived at work to find the message light blinking. I checked, and the mailbox was full, with 20 messages. Odd, I thought. There must have been some mistake. There sure was. Message after message are from people wanting to book a chalet. While I was still checking the messages, calls started coming in. I'm like, hello. Yes, I want to book a chalet. Do you have one available for this weekend? You have the wrong number. C pauses for a moment. But this is XXX, right? No, this is an office in town. He pauses again. But the number is XXXXXXX. Yes, that is my number. But this is an office. We don't have anything to do with chalets. But I want to book a chalet. We don't do chalets? You have the wrong number? But your number is XXXXXX, right? Yes, it's my number, but this is an office, not XXX. We don't do chalets. So the conversation went, and the moment I hung up, another call came in, and another. I had the phone off the hook all day. The next day, I decided to put the phone back. It rang immediately. Hello? Hello, I want to book a chalet. You have the wrong number. Is this XXXXXX? Yes, that is my number, but this is not XXX. But the flyer has this number, XXXXXX. Flyer? What flyer? This flyer for a special offer on chalets between these dates. So I ended the call and looked for the main line of XXX company. I called them and told them I couldn't do any work because of all the calls that were coming in, because they printed my number on their flyers. So you printed my number on your flyers. My phone is ringing non-stop. I can't get any work done. Well, that's not possible. Do you have a flyer or the artwork? Yes, I'll just have a look and... Yes? Is that number my number on your flyer? Yes. It must be a mistake. Look, I'm sure it is. A big one. What are you gonna do? The flyers have all been handed out. There's nothing we can do. Well, how many flyers were printed? 10,000? They couldn't do anything. They didn't want to do anything. I asked them to pay for changing the line and they refused. They didn't offer anything and even asked me to direct all the callers to them at the correct number. So I started answering all the calls, and it took a week, but I told everyone we were fully booked till the end of the promotion. Oh, that's good. And our next post is by user, "Yeah, I probably did it," titled, "My neighbors partied and kept me awake." I think this fits in petty revenge. Let me know if I am wrong. Years ago, I lived in a classic Southern California apartment complex. The kind that is 2 stories high and all have balconies or porches if you are on the ground floor. At the time, I worked in a grocery store and could have shifts that started as early as 3:30. When I had that shift on weekends, sleep could be hard to come by due to various gatherings around the apartment complex. I usually would not say anything about noise until 11 PM on weeknights and midnight on weekends. A new couple moved in right above us and were incredibly noisy at all times. They hosted a party on Friday and Saturday night. Since they had just moved in, I decided to let it go and not be that neighbor. The next weekend, it happened again, and on Friday night about midnight, I went outside and looked up at the people on the balcony and asked if they could quiet down. They mostly complied and I went to bed. The next night they were at it again, and this time I went out to ask them to be quiet, and I got a lot of "screw you" and just go back inside. I did. I figured that I would wait for a better time to actually meet the upstairs neighbors. The next Friday afternoon rolls around, and I can tell they are getting ready to have another party. They see me and start giving me grief and letting me know that I had better not complain, etc. The party wrapped up around 1:30 AM. Saturday night was worse. They were still partying when I left for work, at 3 AM. I heard some parting shots as I walked to my car. I knew I had to act, but I did not know how. Then, slowly, a plan emerged and I knew what I was going to do. I baked cupcakes for the new neighbors. I waited until Thursday morning at 2:45 AM. I took the plate of cupcakes to the neighbors. I went to the door and politely knocked. The door opened and he was mad. He started to say something and then he looked up. He was about 5'6" and I am 6'1" tall. He was slight and I probably weigh about 175 pounds. I just put my best neighborly grin on my face and held out the plate of cupcakes. He regained some composure and starts to angrily ask me what I was doing. Then he said my favorite line. "Do you know what time it is? I have to get up for work in a few hours. Frick, you were rude." Once again, I held out the cupcakes and said, "I am so sorry. I just figured that you're always up at this time since I see you every weekend." It was then that it clicked in his feeble mind that what I was getting at. He accepted the cupcakes. I fully thought that I would have to do this again, but he seemed to have learned his lesson. After that, most parties wrapped up by 12:30 AM. Alright, and our next post is by Sumo Ninja 17, titled, "Monkey See, Monkey Do." Got to work a couple days and saw that my prime parking spot, right next to the employee entrance, was open. Put on my turn signal and turn into the lane, right next to the spot. The lady in the car next to the spot was loading her trunk with groceries, so I was being careful. Just as I was about to start into the spot, 2 people walked down the lane between her car and mine, and I stayed stopped to let them pass safely. The lady was done loading her trunk at about the same time. She closes the trunk and looks right at me, making eye contact. She wheels her cart into my space, keeping eye contact the whole time. She puts the cart up against a parking pillar, parked long ways, so there is no way to fit my car into the space with the cart there. She kept eye contact with me until she sat in her car. Game on. I stopped my car and got out. I walked to the cart and turned to make eye contact with her. I then pushed the cart directly behind her car, keeping eye contact as long as I could. I then walked past her door, making her shut it as she was trying to get out to move the cart. I sat in my car and pulled forward and parked. I gathered my work gear and got out. I expected the cart to be behind my car, but I looked up and saw her walking back from the cart corral. She was no longer making eye contact. I thought about making a sarcastic comment, but decided that since she did put the cart away, I should let it go. She was an a-hole, and I was a jerk right back. It was a tie. Almost. I did get a little petty revenge out of it. Alright guys, that's the end of today's episode of r/revenge. Tell me what you thought about all these stories down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions, thoughts, your own stories with it. What did you guys think of all of it? Tell me down below. Anyway, this has been Markee. I hope you have a good day, night, sleep, whatever you've been up to, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!